The early modern English period of the history of the English language ran from around 1500 to 1800 and was very influential in the way English looks and sounds today. One of the first notable events that pushed English towards the language we now know was the Great Vowel Shift. The Great Vowel Shift started to change the way the long vowel sounds were made, although it did not affect short vowels too much. The main difference can be seen where you compare the sounds of Middle English versus early modern English. Where a Middle Englishman would say shape, an early modern Englishman would say sheep. The same goes for oot and out, boot and boat, and the list goes on and on. Don't be confused with the ah sound for a. It does not come from this. When someone says, "Do you want to dance?" they're just trying to be fancy. The shift did not come without irregularities. This is easily seen in words with oo and the double o, like food, blood, good, or etc., or words with the long o sound, like move or shove. This is also seen with the removal of this letter, pronounced ch. It was most commonly attached to bur, meaning place. Once that letter was removed, other suffixes sprouted, like burrow or bury. Next came the English Renaissance, where as enthusiasm for classical languages grew, more words were brought into the English language. This was also often called the Elizabethan era, or the Age of Shakespeare. As I mentioned, the English language was growing with words from classical languages, especially Latin and Greek ones. In fact, many of those words remained intact, or slightly altered, including genius, anonymous, concept, comedy, and so on. The problem was that this new influx of words led to writers abusing this power. These writers were called inkhorns and created many words that did not survive, like abstergify, attemptate, and eruption, and some that did stick, like dexterity or commit. During the Renaissance, the English language was also introduced to silent letters. Although it was supposed to help add logic to the way words were spelled, it simply contributed to the chaos and inconsistency. By the time the printing press was developed, English was finally being recognized as a language worth learning and starting to develop further. A man named William Caxton introduced the printing press to England in 1476. The first book published was called The Recoil of the Histories of Troy. It wasn't long before the industry boomed and 20,000 books were printed in 150 years. As books were mass-produced, literacy improved, and books in the English language gained popularity. It was around this time that there were about 5 dialects of the English language, which led to a variety of spellings for common words, though having up to 500 variations. The dialect was also determined when words ended in ing, eth, or es. It was the Chancery of Westminster that made an attempt on standardizing spelling, and did so with words like I instead of the Germanic ik, and other words like such, right, but, not, any, these, and so on. However, it was the publishers that had the most control because they were the ones creating the print material. They even created the words they, their, and them. Also notable is the way certain written letters were not available in the printing press and simply called for a letter that looks similar. So in this word, pronounced the first letter is non-existent, so a Y is put in place. This is where we get phrases like ye old pub. Unfortunately, even publishers were inconsistent from spelling because it would be altered for practicality, just like the justification of words on the page. From this is where we get double vowels and the silent E. As spelling developed, so did punctuation, which was propelled primarily by John Hart. Hart moved people away from slashes and towards commas, encouraged the use of the period, added the semicolon, propelled using quotation marks for dialogue, and pushed people to use capital letters for the start of sentences and proper nouns. The combination of all this led the English language largely in the direction of standardization.